Got it. Okay, so in the front of my intro, I said, if I can do it, you can too. And what I mean by that is that I had to take Ms. Evans' English grammar class 4 times. I failed 3 times. The 4th one, she just passed me out of sympathy. So if that was my beginning, and now I can say I've written a book, and most people who've read the book say it's okay, it's good. But I self-published it, so it needs some editing issues, but in general, it's okay. And it's a book about the first generation that went to India. So my family has 4 generations that were in India, 3 born in India. So, but we didn't know about the first generation. And so I was taking writing classes because I was so intrigued in finding out what this first generation was all about that we didn't know anything about. And then I wrote the book. And well, to research the book, I went to India. To be able to write, I didn't have any idea really how to write a book. So I took a lot of writing courses. And then when I was in India, I met the Adivasi, the tribal people that my ancestors had worked with. The church that they had started was still alive and well. And so I began they asked me to give them tips on how to write and how to preserve their own heritage. And so in writing. And so we did this little exercise that I'm going to do with you. And the thing is that I've never done this on Zoom, 1. I've never done this with a whiteboard, 2. And I've never done it as being the internal person in the community. So I've always been the facilitator outside the community, just helping them gather their own information. So this should be interesting. I know that some of you are just going to want to be observers. Some of you have already told me, some people have already told me, oh, I cannot write, I can't do this, but just take it from me. If I can do this, you can too. And we're going to do it together. There's only going to be a brief time when you're going to be writing, and then the rest of the time we're going to be sharing. We're only writing 2 or 3 sentences. So this is not Shakespeare. I mean, well, Shakespeare did really good 2 or 3 sentences, but this is not, we're not writing War and Peace here. We are just writing little vignettes of memories that have been generated while we were here. And unfortunately, I'm sure I missed a day of this reunion because I had a 2-year-old birthday. And so I didn't even see the whole reunion, but in the parts that I saw, I was just like, yeah, memory is just generating constantly. And, of the past, even things when they're talking about the present and the future goals, it's like, so many things that are generated, memories are generated. So it's going to be hard to pick just 2 or 3. Do you think that we have our full capacity that's going to be with us, 25, 24 people?
I mean, we're
do you think more people are still going to join? Because I don't want to get into it before the majority of people are here.
I mean, well, we're only 4 minutes in. I wouldn't wait a whole lot longer.
A whole lot longer. Okay.
Just for everybody who's here.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really good to hear Steve Alter this morning, and he was talking about how important our memories of Woodstock were. at our experience of Woodstock, where some of the just the last session was about dorm life. And even though this was mostly kids, see, like kids from, recent graduates, shall I say, that their experiences, though very different in the era of technology, were very similar to so many of ours. So there's kind of a universality and yet a uniqueness. That's, I think, what I got out of Woodstock, is that, yes, you have a strong sense of community, but you also can have a strong individual identity as well. And so those are the kind of things that I learned or were inspired by during this reunion. So I'm just going to go over what we're going to do. First, we're going to list some common places, objects, and values. Now, this is what, if the Heritage Society of your town decides to choose a heritage spot, or do some heritage preservation within your town, your city, or your neighborhood, whichever it might be, these are the kinds of things that they would look for: places, objects, values, and how the values are connected with the places and the objects. There's also, of course, people, and the reason why I'm not including people is that mentioning people in a group like this could start, you could, depending on what's said, it could be offensive or whatever. So we're leaving people out because that's a whole nother category. If you are going to start writing your memoirs, really look into what you have to do if you are talking about a person who is alive and a person who was recently died. I had the advantage that I was talking about people, I was writing about people in the 19th century. And so there were very few people who could come up to me saying, no, that's not the way it was. That's not what he said to you. That's not, so when you get into writing your own memoirs, look carefully at how you tell the story about people, mentioning real people. That's why you notice that in a lot of movies, it makes a provision that says, this is just based on a true story, but the names have been changed and blah, blah, blah. Because it gets a little sticky when you start writing about people, unless you have their permission. And so these three we're going to start with. We're going to just a few minutes, Woodstock embodied for us, or for other people, what the school values were, or what was important to other people in terms of places or objects. Of course, try to do something close to home, because you're going to have to just pick one memory. But this will help us together. It'll help us jog our memory. Not that we need that much jogging after this weekend, but jog our memory about places, objects, and values that are associated with Woodstock. And then the writing can be based on any one of those things. So I think I'm going to type in here, but maybe not. Sharon, how come you could type in and I can't type in?
So on the left side of your screen, you'll see a little bar that has an up arrow, and the T gives you a text box, so everybody can type. And
So
I think everybody,
no, I don't
can
want to
everybody
write
get on and type?
I want to write on the
Sticky note. Just push the text, and then you should be able to write on your sticky note.
Well, I'm going to be doing a new one.
There you go.
Okay, there I go,
Uh-huh.
but I can't write on it. Push the T, but the T gives me a separate text box.
So there's your A.
Well, while you're doing that, I think everybody has control on here, right? So Mary, do you want everybody to type themselves in here
For
as
right
well?
now, let's just let me type.
Okay,
When we start sharing our stories, so let me go through the list of what we're going to do. After we start sharing these 3 things and making a list, then we're just going to spend a little time writing our 2 or 3 sentences. You have the option of writing it on your own Post-it note or using the text. I think people on the phone might have a hard time. They won't be able to do this. So writing in your chat, and then Kim will put it on the on a Post-it note.
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
So your Post-it note is on your screen. The blue arrow here, you go all the way down, and it's called sticky note.
Sticky notes.
You click on that sticky note, and then you can move it wherever you want on your screen, and then check text, and then you can type in it.
Right.
If you can't figure it out how to do it, type it in the message, the chat, and I will do it.
Yeah. But right now we're not doing it yet. So we'll take some few minutes to write sentences. And then we're going to share the first 5 or 6 sentences just to get an idea of what kind of things people are writing about and kind of talk about it together. Talk about how they fit together, how they, are they just like totally non-connected to each other, or is there a flow? And perhaps we can change the order of how they're going, and then we'll add more stories to complete. At the end, we supposedly have a collective story, but it's a very disconnected story because it's just these vignettes that are popping out. And but it's a starting place for you as a person who's thinking about writing a memoir, or to look at what collective story writing entails. So when you can get together with friends and family and together talk about your community, whatever sub-community that might be. And so I hope everybody's clear on what we're going to do, and now we're going to do it. Is that right? Go like this.
And if you're not clear, put it in the chat and I'll
Yeah, put
respond
it in the
back
chat.
to you.
Kim's going to help me out here. Okay, so so the places of Woodstock, the objects of Woodstock, the values of Woodstock. Anybody can start. This is the last group was very tech savvy from high school. I am not. So is somebody writing in? No. Biology. Just let me do the writing, okay? Biology class. All right. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to be a dictator here. There we go. Biology class. Okay. Anybody want to shout out a place, an object or value?
Parker Hall.
Okay. Parker
Jacob's Ladder.
Hall. Jacob's Ladder.
Hanson Field.
Hanson Field. I have one.
The
tea
Liar
shop.
Tree.
Liar Tree. Ooh. Wonder what's there now.
Sisters Bazaar.
Sisters Bazaar. Okay.
The Winter
mine-
Line.
I'm
The
sorry, I
winter
didn't-
line.
Winter. Ooh. Now that is a view. But
Wonderpooch.
Witches Hill.
I'm gonna start adding to this one.
Laltiba.
When I was there,
Jubbercate.
Jubber. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. When I was there, this place was very popular, and I think it became Cozy Corner. Fairy Glen.
Mullingar. The clock
Okay,
tower.
we're gonna stop. Oh.
Eyebrow. The eyebrow.
Eyebrow. Okay, we're gonna stop there and look at some objects.
The ramp.
Yes.
That's actually a very good one.
The music
shop.
cell.
The tuck shop.
Tuck shop.
Okay, well, maybe we should forget objects and just look at places.
Yeah.
Shop.
Uh,
The music cells.
The what?
Music cells.
Music.
The practice cells.
Peacock
Okay.
orchids.
Nobody's got an object for me? Back
Peacock orchids and dahlias.
there. Okay,
The dinner bell.
Sharon,
Umbrellas.
Monsoon
Others.
rain.
Mold.
Leeches.
Leeches, yeah.
Paneer,
Paneer. Okay, I'm getting,
Jalebis. Oak trees.
jalebis. Yeah, that's a good one.
jalebi. Is that right?
Oatmeal breakfast. Gosh.
Oh, make me
How about,
gay.
Roman sandals.
Roman sandals.
Oak trees.
Is that right? Sandals?
Beatles.
Ferns.
The Beatles.
Reptile
Yeah.
collection.
Ferns. Fern collections. Chessie fights.
What's that?
Chessie
Chessie
fights.
Chestnuts. Oh, yeah.
The sundial.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go to some values. I think
Community.
Community.
I see some other in the comments, in the chats.
Okay, you got some to tell me?
Should we just, so I see letters and monkeys.
Letters as in paragrams?
Letters. Mhm.
This is-
Ranking. Dancing. Singing.
How come I just lost everything? I didn't. I just lost you people. That's all.
Wait, who'd you lose? Can you get back on your objects thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to get another sticky note under here.
You want me to put one there?
Okay, I'll put this one over here, make it bigger.
Okay, you got it. There you go.
All right, I'm sorry, I missed a bunch.
Hi guys. Can you add the sundial, please, Mary?
Oh,
It's on
do we
there.
have that? It's
It's
on
right
there.
here.
Up on, it's kind of,
Oh,
the
I-
print is getting smaller and smaller. the
Oh,
more
I
we
see it.
write.
Thank you. Thank you.
So add monkeys
Monkeys, they were talked about a lot last session.
and the
Please add edible spleenwort.
Are bhai, what
Edible
happened?
spleenwort.
Edible springwort.
Spleenwort, which was one of the ferns. I had no idea what edible meant, but the Dr. Fleming sent us out to collect ferns, which we did in huge numbers. And one was the edible spleenwort. Now I know that it's eatable, but in those days, Nobody told us. There was a non-edible spleen wort and an edible spleen wort. And we collected, we had huge fern collections because Missouri, being what it is, its climate and its altitude, had the most marvelous varieties of ferns in plenty.
Rhododendron.
That's what
rhododendrons
Dr.
too.
Fleming left us with, a memory of edible spleen wort.
Okay, so you guys,
Who knows
somebody's
whether
been
it's-
messing with my my typing here. See, this is what happens when Woodstock people get together. I tell you. Let's stick with values. We've got lots of places and lots of objects, and you know what's in your head. So community. What's another value?
Singing and dancing, the choir.
Who did that?
Not a value.
Who did that?
Who said that?
No, who erased my,
Erased it?
Mm-mm. No, it's there.
it's there?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how come I can't see it?
It says monkeys now.
Community monkeys?
We're having a little bit of delay, I think. Okay,
Can you get on okay?
I got it back. Community.
Wait, Lois Niss says she used to cook monkeys?
No. That's why they're fighting against us. Community. Oh, come on, people. We have more values than
it's a-
that.
It was
The tolerance.
a Christian community.
Somebody
Sharing.
said like music, singing and dancing, so I would say
Music.
music.
Music. Yeah, being musical and talent. Like everybody, what I liked about Woodstock is that, you know, we had talent shows where even if you weren't that talented, you could try to present your talent if you dared.
Honesty.
Honesty.
Mhm.
Trustworthiness. Or yeah, we could trust each other.
Okay.
Sharing.
Mischievous.
Mischief.
Badmashis. In my
Badmash.
day, being a badmashi was a very big value.
Somebody said multilingualism.
Really? Well, maybe later on. Yeah, maybe.
Well, yeah, there's lots of different languages spoken.
Yeah.
Nature, appreciation for nature or value of nature.
Yeah, definitely. Value and wonder, the mystery of nature.
Being,
Okay.
one more, being adventurous.
Adventure.
Inquiry, inquisitive.
That's a good one.
And curiosity goes with that, I think.
Yep.
Curious.
Oh, man.
Did you get you didn't get sharing, sharing and collaborating.
Oh, yeah. And what was the other one
Collaborating. Oh, yeah.
that I missed?
Expanded worldview.
Mhm.
And one more, team building sports. Yeah, it wasn't just about the winning, it was about team
Yeah.
building. We've heard that mentioned several times today.
Somebody said a good one that I didn't write down, I'm sure. Community, tolerance, Christian music, talent, honesty, trustworthiness, mischievous, badmashi, multilinguist, lingual.
I also want to make a plug for secular, because I think
Secular.
we had one of the best classes I took was comparative world religions, which
Mhm.
taught me a lot about not just Christianity, but
Yeah.
all the different faiths. So
that secular spirit was not there in my day at all.
Not at
Thank
all.
In fact, all values were assumed to be Christian.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
Honesty
goodness.
and straightforwardness from other religions like Hinduism were assumed to not exist.
Yeah.
That was the Raj
I
days.
think
shortly
even,
after.
yeah.
But
Oh, thank you
Ashok Chatterjee
for
had a completely different take on that.
Yeah, but yeah, I remember he had a different take. But you know, everybody has different memories of things that they.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it. I was very proud to have Christian values, even though I was Hindu, because you.
I
built
had a
into
couple
you.
of classmates who were Hindu, very strongly Hindu, and they felt like they really had to fight to express their Hinduism. But I think we had a couple of teachers who made it possible for them. A couple of teachers who made it very difficult for them, but a couple of teachers who also, but we're not mentioning people, so I won't
Right.
go there.
And times changed, attitudes changed.
Yes.
For my years, it was the momentum of the British Raj.
Yes,
So those mindsets have changed, and the change has been
yeah.
nice, very nice.
Mike had a really good story in a previous session. I have a similar story, but I'll keep it away from this.
Okay. So I want people to feel comfortable about writing just a couple of sentences. Taking anything that's here on the board or just picking your own. And this time you may take a Post-it note and put it here and do your own writing. So you can pick a Post-it note and don't put it on top of somebody else's, but just take a Post-it note and put it over in a blank space. And then, and if you don't feel comfortable about writing in front of everybody, write it down and then just transpose it up there. Unfortunately, on these Post-it notes, you can't do cut and paste. If you want to do cut and paste, then you will have to use text right onto the whiteboard. So
Mary?
hopefully this is, yeah. Go ahead.
Why is my screen is just snow white? There's no figures or letters or anything. Do you know why that is?
Right, I made it snow white, but now do you see a Post-it on it?
No, I did earlier. I saw the 3 Post-its.
Okay.
You can
So,
scroll.
if you have to,
Scrolling.
this is the first page. And then I'm going to a second page, which is blank.
You might need to scroll down, Mike. It could have sometimes. You might need to scroll down. Does everybody else see it? See everything?
Mike,
Everybody's.
Mike, on the left of your whiteboard, you should see a bunch of symbols. And if you
Yes.
click on the symbols, the arrow at the top, you should be able to get a note.
Okay, so I'm going to write something here on this Post-it that I've put up. Hopefully.
Hmm.
Frustrating. Come on. I'm supposed to be able to write on it. Okay. Can you see that? It's saying Mary's posting. Mary's
Mm-mm.
post. You see that?
No.
No,
No.
can't see it. Can't see it, Mary.
Okay.
No, I can't see it either, Mary.
Maybe you have to click share
That's
first.
interesting.
Yeah, are you? Yeah. Is it shared up there at the top, Mary?
Now can you see it?
Everybody
No.
see that?
No.
Hmm.
Now all the list of values is gone.
That is so strange.
Oh, everything disappeared. Oh no.
Okay, so I guess unshare it. That's strange.
Everything disappeared. Just unshare it.
Just unshare it. Yeah.
Now it's- Okay, and now let me see if I can go back and see
Go
what's
back to your-
there.
Go back to your whiteboard. Yeah, there we go.
Hmm,
Now can you see it, Mike?
I can see everything now, thank you.
Good. Does everybody see everything?
Everything
Okay.
except Mary's
Yes.
post-it.
Can't see Mary's post-it.
Yeah, that's gonna be on the second page. Now, if I go to second page. Yeah,
You can just,
I do
now can you
I do
that?
see 4 blank post-it notes to the far left. Somebody's put them up there.
Somebody's put them up, okay.
Mary, I don't know that you need to go to the second page. I think you can just scroll around to
Just
different
stay
parts.
on, just stay on this first page and scroll
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
There we go. There we go. Yeah, just go
Okay.
ahead and do it right over
Okay.
here on all this.
all right. So spend, if you have, the first 6 people just share, whatever their story is. So
Haven't
this
written
is
it yet.
crazy. Technical age.
Yeah.
Kim, there's a bunch of random characters in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that. I was trying to figure that out. Where's the erase button? There. Or were you talking to this
So-
Kim or you either Kim?
Sorry, I should change my name.
Kim, yeah.
Okay. Everybody know what they're doing?
No,
Okay, so click. So, oh, you mean in terms of technical
can't-
or story?
technical.
Technical, okay. Can you see this?
I'm not seeing any way for me to write anything on the screen.
Okay, so
Ah.
there, right here, there is a sticky note
On the far right corner.
on the far right corner.
Yeah.
Now go to the far left and there will be like a big letter T.
Yeah.
Click on that and that'll say text. And then take your cursor over to that sticky note and start typing.
Okay. Thank you.
There, look at that. Somebody's doing it.
I started and it quit.
Not to quit.
Wow, that one note is way below everything else.
Yeah, somebody was being very kind, giving plenty of room to fellow students.
Mhm.
But if we each are doing our own story, we each need a post-it.
Right, so
Right.
everybody, right, so you just go over there and click on here, let me just put some on here. You guys can just pick them up.
Yeah. if
You
there's
guys just
somebody-
find a sticky note and start typing.
I think we have to click on
No.
this to
Holy
produce, we have to produce a text box.
Right, then you have to go over here to the T. Click on the T. And then take it over to your box and click on the box. And then you can start typing.
Take it over.
Hey, Kim, can you move that last note up so everybody can see it?
Yeah, I can.
Where's the note? Am I missing it?
Oh, shoots. Did I erase it?
Oh, down here?
Uh-oh, did you erase it? That was a nice
Oh, here
note.
it is. Oh, here it is.
Found it.
Let's see. I'm not sure how to move that. Let's see.
Yeah. exactly.
There's a way.
There's got to be a way. Do you know how to move it, Mary?
I think I can.
Okay, go for it.
I'm
Oh.
gonna try.
Oh, no.
This is part of the adventurous spirit. It's coming up.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Mary and Kim,
Uh,
if you hold your cursor down on the sticky notes, you see what I'm doing?
Yeah,
That
Hold
moves
it
them
down.
around. Let me see if I can help you move some of these things around and people, you can enlarge them. You see.
yeah.
We should have had
So
you
I'll
in
make
charge.
some bigger for you.
Okay.
And Let me just see if anything
Them
got.
on there?
So anybody can move them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can all share this, but let me just get some going here for you.
Try not to do too much. Okay, I'm gonna write something.
Yeah, but on three times I've started to type and then the word,
Yeah. it
lettering
disappeared.
goes away.
Oh, gee.
I see what you're saying. It just did it with mine too. I guess
that
we're
because only-
overloading.
Is that
Are we
because
over-
only one person can be moving it at the same time?
Oh, dear.
That could be it.
That could be it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting out of the moving activities, so maybe go with what you got. And again, if you pick an individual sticky note and hold your cursor down, you can make it as big as you want. Pull a text, use the letter T on the left-hand column. You can put some text into that. So I'll step back for now.
Okay, I think I'm gonna do that one. What?
Who's writing
Connie,
about the
you want to
beaches?
give us a workshop on how to do this, Connie?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not working.
Holy moly.
Just learning as we're doing it, but that's generally how things get moved in
Yeah.
visuals on documents. So applies here too.
I'm not showing you my beautiful face because I keep having to take the dog out.
We want to see the dog.
I have a 10-week-old puppy, so it's like having a baby.
It is so bizarre.
Up where it says Mary's memory, there are
Yeah.
pictures and it shows, like it has my picture and then it has what LH and KS. So it's sort of like, and then there's the word share.
Yeah.
What do-
So
But-
then it has 27. So that means this is being shared with 27.
people?
People.
Then why are some of our pictures there? Because we started to type something?
We were the first ones, probably.
Oh, okay.
Or we're the only ones with our videos open.
That could be part of it.
Because if I turn off my video, my picture goes.
Hmm.
Gone.
Right.
Okay. How many people have written a sentence, whether it's on here or on a piece of paper?
Me.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
I think it's fun.
It is.
You're very brave, Mary. Thank you for doing this. And you too, Kim.
Yeah, this is,
She's braver than I am.
that is definitely a value I picked up from Woodstock. My Jewish friends here in the States call it chutzpah. I don't know what we called it.
And if I can't figure out how to do it, I'm just sitting here Googling it on my phone.
You have guts. You have guts. You're brave. Okay.
Wow, who's writing about the tea? That's great.
Yeah. Wait, where'd they all go?
Since we're having so many technical difficulties, I haven't even started to have you introduce your senses and your emotions into the story. So in
Ah.
one sentence, you can talk about, I mean, you can edit your post. You can add to it how it made you feel, what you, yeah, things like that. How it made you feel, how did it smell? How did it feel physically? Those kind of things.
Okay, so who's writing about the quad T? This is really interesting.
Don't see it.
Okay, we'll have a time to share. We'll have a time to share. If I can ever get my post up here.
I don't see the quad T.
Down below.
It's below.
Yep,
Scroll
I think so.
scroll down. It's quite a story. And I agree with that story fully, my goodness.
There's also a zoom button down in the bottom right-hand corner, so you can zoom out and see all the notes or zoom in on a note.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I
sad
can
to lose
see
that
that.
tree, but trees don't live forever.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they killed that tree.
They didn't nurse it
Mean
properly.
to. Well, my writing just disappeared.
Uh-oh.
So
Who's
did
this-
mine.
Who was
Yeah,
that?
I know, but then they
I
come
can.
back.
That's strange.
Okay. We've
There it
got a
is.
few,
It's at the
right?
top. The T one's at the top now, for some
I
reason.
can't see it.
Okay.
I can't get it to scroll.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
it's up.
I can't either.
Do that zoom button down to the far right. Do the
Uh-oh.
one.
Whoops.
Uh-oh. It keeps moving around. That is so strange.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim, there's a bunch of stuff all the way to the left. Can you move that over?
All the way to the left.
Yeah. If you zoom your screen down, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Group
Yeah.
of about 10 of us made it to Nagtiba.
Oh, there.
Where'd that go? I just started
Okay.
reading it. Now it's gone.
So before we lose any of this,
I moved.
let's start reading them and kind of get an idea of how they might fit with each other. So anybody want to be brave enough to do theirs? Since
I put a little bit of a story in the chat because it was
Oh, okay.
not,
Okay.
every time I tried on this post it would disappear.
Okay. I mean, usually I have a whiteboard or a chalkboard that's separate. I know how to do it mechanically with my hand. This thing is
Mary,
a little bit more challenging.
You can copy the chat and dump it into one of the post-its.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. Oh, copy the chat. Yeah, Kim was supposed to be doing that for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it in a thing here, right here. That's what I was just getting ready to do.
And I missed a lot of this because I had to take a walk. So,
Okay.
so I hope you've got this all recorded for me.
Well, we've got it recorded, but the writing of it keeps disappearing.
Mary, would
Yeah.
it make sense to get into a Google Doc and just have everybody be able to?
Yeah,
No,
I think that makes a heck
Yeah,
of a lot more
something
sense.
really is not working with this thing.
Okay, but do you know how to close? I'm going to open a Google Doc. Sorry about those technical difficulties.
Well,
But,
I wonder if in the meanwhile, while you're doing that, Mary, could we just have a couple of the people read their stories
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
while Mary's doing that? Or
I'm going to make a Google Doc.
so Kim Rugh, R-U-G-H, if you want to read is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Bergier?
Rue is Rue Bergier, yeah.
Yeah, Rugh Bergier. If you want to just read yours
What did I write here?
in the chat.
Under the lyre tree.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just put here, under the lyre tree, a couple grabbed an umbrella as it started to rain, then ran together down the hill, thankful for shared friendship. So I thought that kind of incorporated the location, the rain, the umbrella, and the friendship.
Yes. Okay.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Okay. Hey, so what we could do, Mary, is just have everybody quickly put their things in the chat that's not showing up. So Jeff and Sue Rollins, whoever wrote that one.
Where the heck did the chat go?
You want me to read it? Yeah. Okay. So Jeff, this comes from Jeff and Sue Rollins. This is what they wrote. At the Quad Tea Garden one winter break, we noticed that one of the branches were dying and the needles were brown. As a central object of Woodstock identity, this change was quickly brought to the attention of the administration and experts from the Forest Research Institute called to investigate. Oh, I just lost the chat.
Oh, did I close it?
Suggestions were made to preserve this tree, like removing the stone steps that the tree had grown into, and the tiles in the tea garden needed to be removed to allow rainwater to soak into the ground and water the tree. This tree has been the symbol of our school spirit and was a favorite place to sit. The loss of the tree felt like we were losing our history.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Jeff, I agree with you 100%, and Sue.
There's another one here by Sharon. She says, close calls and grateful to be alive. A group about, Sharon, you read it. It's yours.
A group of about 10 of us made it to the top of Nagtiba after a long day, and we're sleeping outside just below the top. At about midnight, I woke to see a storm rolling in from the north. It was far away and lit the mountain ridges up with a beautiful lightning display. We enjoyed it for a while, but then realized that we were right in the path of the storm and lightning was a real threat. We had to wake everybody up and hike down below the tree line, where we sat on pads, draped tarps over everyone, built a wall with our packs and tried to get some sleep while the rain pelted down around us and the lightning came way too close. And I just remember in the early morning we were freezing, so we found the dry inside of some coconuts that were on the altar and managed to make a fire. We shared food from our packs, changed into dry clothes, and celebrated being alive.
These are being saved, aren't they?
Hmm?
What did you say?
They're being saved.
Yeah, well, they're on the chat. Max, do you want to read yours?
Yeah, I try to keep it to 3 sentences, but I could expand more because Flag Hill has meant a lot to me in many ways.
Yeah.
But this is what I wrote. Flag Hill seemed mysterious to me at first. It exposed me to beautifully to religious diversity. It encouraged tolerance in me. COVID prevented my scattering some of my wife's ashes there, but I will get there yet.
Nice.
Thank
Good
you.
one, Max.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else who had theirs on the sticky note? Do you remember what you wrote? Can you put that? Can you either put it in the chat or read it to us?
My writing disappeared.
Can you remember what you wrote?
Well, it was about biology class. and
Biology class, okay. Who is
the famous scientist who we are not naming?
Is he still alive?
required us to do collections over winter break, and I decided that I would collect reptiles, thinking that it would be easy to get village children to bring me lizards and that sort of thing. But my father drove over a 9-foot python.
Ooh.
And drove over it 3 or 4 times, thought he'd killed it, tossed it in the back of the Jeep. And long story short, we had to force feed this creature because it wouldn't eat. There would be a chicken in one end of the World War II ammunition box and the python in the other end of the box. And so we force fed it. We put it into a small wooden box that was nailed and tied shut. And that came up with me to the hills and was under my bed. Fortunately, talking about values, I had a wonderful roommate who wasn't terrified of a 9-foot python under the bed. Of course, in March, it was cold, so he wasn't moving around much. But when I took him up to the biology lab in the classrooms, the famous scientist was gone. He had gone on to Nepal. There was a new greenhorn from America who was terrified of snakes. And so he told me that he would not keep the python in the big aquarium in the biology lab. And I carried him back down to the college and he was under my bed. And somebody ratted on me And I remember the dorm mother, I don't remember whether it was Mrs. Hilliard, but anyway, at the door saying, Patricia, you have to get rid of that. Well, Ray, we're not naming names. There was a boy in my sister's class 2 years ahead who was a famous hunter, and he came and dispatched the python. And I still have a picture someplace of me with a piece of python meat sticking out of my mouth. Reportedly, it tasted like chicken.
Good one.
A little bit more than 2 or 3 sentences. Thank you. We concede to our elders. So anybody else want to share theirs, or somebody share it from the chat? Because I am putting them in order of how they're being read.
Mary, this is another Mary. I
Yeah,
saw
hi,
the
Mary.
beginning of one and I was writing it down, but it disappeared. I'd really like to know the end of it and who wrote it. I watched the dune from the tea shop ledge and wondered what my future would hold. It connected me spatially to the outside world, ...
Ah, I wrote that one, but the ... was, but I was sitting there all alone.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. See,
I'd like to share one if I could.
Please.
I didn't write it down. I just logged in, but there was something that I think was well, life-changing, I guess, or you know, supported my life from Woodstock. Many of you might know that when my parents, well, my whole family was flying into Delhi for my graduation. This is in '72. The plane crashed and everybody was killed on it. The Woodstock community just came around me and supported me. And when I got back to the States to start college, Mary Kay, there were a number of people, Woodstockites in the area, in the Baltimore area. And we just traveled around, hooked up with each other, and it just made all the difference to me to be together with some people, you know, the people that I was close to those last couple years. And it really is your formative years. I think it's a really big part of what you become, you know, from your high school experience. And even to this day, you know, we're still close. We have our 50th reunion, which hopefully I'll see Lois at. And that's in Estes Park in September. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Good example of community, isn't it?
Andrew Hennessy, were you in 72 or class of 72?
Yeah, class of '72.
Okay.
In fact, well, I probably shouldn't. We're not using names, right?
No names.
Well, I dated for a short while somebody
I know.
on this site here.
Oh, okay. All right. Ooh, that's scandalous. Let's see. Figure it out, huh? Yeah. Anybody else sharing a story? Who was the one that wrote about the tea time? Or
The liar tree.
That was a liar tree.
oh, that was the one at the Lyre Tree. Okay, okay, that was nice. Anybody else have something to share? I mean, I didn't get the full stories down, but I got the subjects. That the first story was about the Lyre Tree. The second story, I think, was also about the Lyre Tree. The third story was about hiking. The fourth story was about tolerance, learning tolerance from at Woodstock. Then there
Flag.
was one about the biology class and the Python. And then looking at the dune from the tea shop.
There's two more. Lois wrote one and Ruth wrote one. Real quick, you guys want to
Oh,
read?
I'm
yours?
sorry. And the last one was about how the community helped Andrew after his family's tragic death in a plane
Right.
crash. So, yeah. So, okay, Lois. You gonna read it for her, or is she gonna read it?
I'll read it for her. One of the most poignant places in the world is in the quad at sunset, 6 days before going down day. Waiting, longing, anticipation, all wrapped up in the cold. And Ruth, do you want to read yours? You want me to read it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's just thoughts. Fat leeches cover my legs. Looking toward the sun, my face is reflected back in a halo. Such beauty, such mystery.
So, Mary, it's getting close to 4 o'clock.
Okay. Mike, did you write one?
I did. It's
Okay.
just two very short sentences. I used to sit on on the big rock beneath the flag at the flagpole. Then a boy came from America and he didn't know any better and he sat there. And that's how it begins.
That's really naughty,
That's as far as I got in terms of typing.
Yeah, right. So that left it at a very good climax. Like, what's going to happen next? So that was the flagpole. Due to the fact that this opens up to a lobby, we will be having, we had this recorded, didn't we? I hope so. And and all of these sessions will be recorded and put on the website within 2 weeks or something like that. So if you want to return,
it's still
to
recording.
our crazy conversation here. Good. And
Mary?
and kind of yes.
If I can just add a note here for these people that are interested in writing their stories.
Yes.
I was gifted a computer process called Storyworth by my niece. And I have just mailed out a 415-page book of family memories and stories.
Oh, wonderful.
And I would recommend it to you if you are interested in doing that. It doesn't have to be that long. Mine just happened to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And your family is interested in all those stories. When you write for the general public, you have to kind of consolidate it and think about who else might be reading it. But when you're writing just for your family, you can go on and on and on like we do. And I just want to thank everybody for participating in this. It didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. What I would like to spend this last few minutes, how many minutes is it? Oh, it's not even.
About 1 or 2 minutes.
1 or 2 minutes. If anybody just would have some observations of what this collective writing, how writing these vignettes, what it meant to you, or what you think was important about this little exercise. Yeah, Mike.
Having lived in Hollywood for decades, I'm so delighted to have participated in a communal effort because I've learned throughout college, graduate school, film school, and then in Los Angeles to compete.
Mhm.
And competition is supposed to create a condition where you're at your best. And I've learned through School of Hard Knocks that that isn't true.
Mhm.
And that a sense of relaxation can trigger inspiration, a sense of communal cooperation can actually produce something creative and artistic. It doesn't have to be driven by ego.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we should do this at every reunion, maybe not the way necessarily this way, but something like this, just having a storytelling time, but doing it in a collective way rather than each individual just telling their story. And I mean, at Woodstock, I felt like we did compete a lot. We competed in sports, we competed even in music and acting and those kind of things. But at the same time, we mentioned the team spirit was a strong value at Woodstock. And we did a lot of things communally. We did a lot of things together that that I miss in the world. It's not done enough, like you said, Mike. Anyone
Actually,
else want to add some? Yeah, Mary.
my experience at Woodstock was all about competition, and especially academically. It wasn't enough to get an A. It had to be the best A of anybody. And I think what struck me, in the class of 69, it might be different now, but what I really appreciated, Mary, was your humility in the way you started. And I think that when we are vulnerable enough to share our weaknesses, that is a real point of connection for people. And so I really credit you for setting the tone and getting people to share so openly, because you yourself started by saying you failed. I don't know, whose class was it?
Ms. Evans, who's now Ms. Alter, Mrs. Alter.
Okay, anyway.
Carol Evans.
The thing
Carol
was
Evans
that
Alter. Yeah.
it didn't stop you from being a writer. And
Yeah.
I saw in the chat, Carol Green put that this seminar was, how should I say it, sprinkled with persistence and humor. And maybe those are additional values that we learned.
Yeah.
But I thank you for your humility and the tone that you set.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share before we cut off and invite others? Are they already starting to come in?
It might be. Mary, if you would just unshare your screen so we can see everybody
Yep.
across the top.
Someone
Yeah.
asked what the program was about writing stories.
Yeah.
What was the name of that program or that?
Storyworth?
On television?
No. Writing your family story.
The software that's used for, yeah, who, I think it was Pat who said.
Storyworth.
Storyworth.
Storyworth, WORTH?
Yes.
Is that the one where they give you a subject to write about?
They send you a question each Monday morning, and some of them are ridiculous, but you can vet the questions.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't have to write about each one.
But it gives you something to think about to write.
It's a starter.
Yeah.
So right now the lobby is open and we will be welcoming other people, I assume. But I'm not leading the lobby, am I? I'm here.
I think Suzanne and me, and I think you are somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Is the lobby actually open on the same?
It's
Yeah,
on the
it's on-
same one, yeah.
It's on the same link. So
Yes, it is.
again,
I
thank
just
you to all of
signed
you
in.
guys. Oh, Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hi. So I was a staff member in the 80s. And I just wondering, has anyone else had the experience where you dream about Woodstock, that you're there years and years after you've left?
Oh, yeah.
I dream I was going and checking my mail, right, to see if I had a letter.
I dream I go to the wrong classroom.
Or I dreamed that I was walking up the cut, you know, or
In my maiden form bra. For those who remember. Someone mentioned it yesterday, I forget.
Maya, what year were you?
In the 50s.
Okay.
5 years in the 1950s. So it takes me back a long way. It was a very different school and a whole different period.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to say that Woodstock is trying to, for the celebration 75 years of independence, they're trying to collect stories of people who lived through the independence movement. I think the generation that actually graduated around that time dwindled down. But any stories that maybe you have of your parents or grandparents who might have been, I mean, some of us are multi-generation at Woodstock, so we might have stories from people who were at Woodstock during independence, the independence movement, and how that affected their time at Woodstock. Just putting that
I
out.
spoke to my sister who was the class of 55. I went into Woodstock 2 weeks before Independence Day, and frankly, I don't remember a whole lot about it. Going into boarding was not as happy an experience as it might have been. But I asked my sister, and she reminded me, because I think I sent her this book several years ago. Sally Stoddard and Sally Hazlett put together a book called, I think it's called Living on the Edge, with stories from Woodstock people.
Yep.
And there should be people who have copies of that.
Yeah.
And there are at least 3 actual stories about Woodstock during that year. I just remember lousy food, and which was not as good as at home, and being lonely. And I do remember vaguely a flag. My sister said she remembered that they stopped singing God Save the King and sang the Indian National Anthem instead, along with the Star Spangled Banner. But I do not remember that.
Okay.
But see, I'm class of 57. Most of the people who were there are dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But you have another classmate here. I see a Don Emerson in 57.
Don is a class, but see, the thing is, remember, the classes changed. And there's a whole bunch of us that started, I mean, the missionary kids, a lot of us started Woodstock, and some started in kindergarten. I actually was on furlough then, started in 1st grade. So I haven't learned all the things I needed to know. I never learned because I never had kindergarten. But the missionaries of the larger missions, and my parents were Presbyterians, had these houses around the hillside that now belong to the school. Like and many of them, the mothers were required to take some time in the mountains, just like the British were, for like 2 or 3 months because of the heat. And they lived in these houses or in apartments in the houses. And school started the 1st week of March, ended the last week of November. And the school year went along with that. But you see, Don Emerson didn't get to Woodstock until about 8th grade, and he was only there 2 years. His father was part of the State Department, and those folks were moved every 2 years.
Yeah.
So I had classmates, State Department. I had classmates that were part of the
contractors for the Buckra Dam. We had 0.4 people, which was a US AID program, and it was different groups of people. Plus there were children of refugees from World War II were there. And we had my class had about a third Indian students. And one of my favorite things about that was that there were only 3 girls in my graduating class. One was Hindu, one was Muslim, and the third one was one of the Skinner family, who were Anglo-Indian Christians and who still own property in the other side of Missouri. And the Hindu and Muslim roomed together. In fact, the Muslim girl just died about a month ago, and her close Muslim friend, the Hindu one just died, and the Muslim is just heartbroken. They were that close all these years.
Was that Shama Zaidi?
No. It was Asha Ghai, and Shama Zaidi was the class of 56.
Okay.
56.
I was
Asha Ghai
56.
passed away?
Asha Ghai and Betty, we called her Betty Khan, but her name was Asmatara Farid Ali Khan, but they changed her name because of the riots around independence. Her family was from Lucknow.
I do remember her.
And she married a businessman in Lucknow, and I'm sure went by the name of Asmat. She's still in India, but traveling, and will probably move to the US at some point, or to Canada more likely.
If I
But
could.
Asha's husband, there's Don Emerson, and you just showed up, Don. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Hey, Don.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Marion. I learned a lot just about my time at Woodstock, just listening to you recapitulate, right? I guess I want to say 2 things. One is kind of an irrelevant private matter, which did mean that I started out at Woodstock on the wrong foot. I have no idea how this happened, but my parents, of course, were in touch with the management of Woodstock, but they were in Karachi, Pakistan, as Marion has just indicated. So they were a long way away, and I was delivered to Ridgewood. And I guess that matched my age group. I'm not quite sure. And I, without exaggerating, Ridgewood, in my experience, was hell. I say that because at night, for example, it was like I was into kindergarten. There were these little kids who were screaming and shouting and throwing things, and I definitely did not want to be there. No way, absolutely not. And so I contacted, I don't quite know how I did that, my parents, and said, I'm out of here. I think I actually said, showed you how little I knew about geography. I guess I said, I'm going to walk all the way back to Pakistan if I have to. So I made a huge stink and was promoted to the hostel. And in the hostel, then I began to appreciate, I had people who were, in my view, kind of mature enough. Anyway, so that's private. So, but anyway, my memory of Woodstock then became very, very positive, very, very positive, despite the fact that, like a lot of other, testosterone-driven male teenagers, I quickly adopted the duty, so to speak, of breaking every rule I could. Rebellion was what I had in common with my male classmates in the hostel. We had a wonderful time breaking those rules. There were some sad moments, and not everyone escaped. That is to say, even I was called in, and that's maybe I shouldn't go into that, but I mean, I had a long conversation with Frenchie Brown, who was the person who would have expelled me. And fortunately, he decided not to do that. And then there are other stories that my friends have now grown up. I'm in touch with them by phone and so forth. And some of them have similar experiences. But don't misunderstand. My experience at Woodstock was very, very, very positive. I really enjoyed it. I have never been back. I feel badly about that. I would love to go back. And just watching the videos at the reunion, and I'm so delighted that it was a virtual reunion, not an in-person reunion, because I was able to, I mean, just, you know, the Center for Imagination. What an imaginative idea. I mean, it looks, I mean, of course, this is being portrayed by the school in positive terms, I'm sure, but it looks like a terribly wonderful place to be. I will say this, and this is, I guess, the second thing, if I could, and I don't want to talk too much, and that is there was a distinction when I was there between the Mish kids and the others. The others being, in my case, embassy kid, business, point 4, Marion mentioned. Now, I don't want to suggest that there was, you know, civil war between the Mish kids and the others. I will say that one of my very first nights in the hostel, my father, you know, rightly or wrongly, had taught me card games. You know, I was beginning to learn bridge and so forth, including poker. And so, you know, you're surrounded by young guys. I mean, fortunately, not as young as in Ridgewood, but anyway, and you want to make friends. And so I said, well, hey, I've got a deck of cards here. Let's play poker. I just learned how to play poker. I'll teach you how. Let's play poker. And an individual whom I can't name, I mean, I can, but I won't, said to me, this was a young kid who was staying at the hostel. If I get a hold of those cards, I'm going to burn them. And indeed, I never found out if he actually did get a hold of them and burn them. But I will say that, you know, from my little backpack or whatever it was, the cards soon disappeared and never reappeared. Now, you know, that was a kind of a fact about social life and growing up. And well, there's some people that really don't like the notion of gambling. I mean, it was part of my education. So I wasn't particularly resentful. And I don't want to indicate, again, I really emphasize this, that there was somehow a deep cleavage between the Mish kids and the others. But I wonder, Marion perhaps, or others could tell me more about this. And that's the role of religion at Woodstock. I get the sense now that although religion has a role, it's a very, very sort of, you know, broad, encompassing, welcoming, not in any way a kind of narrow, nothing fanatic about, you know, the indications, references to religion that I picked up.
No.
Nothing at all, right? And frankly, I'm not sure that it was the case back then. I mean, Marion would give me a better idea. I don't remember a lot of fanatics running around trying to persuade me to become a Christian. I do remember, you know, resenting having to go to church and so forth. And I sometimes say that one of the reasons I'm an agnostic today and have been for my adult life is because I went to Woodstock. But I wonder if anybody would comment.
Don, give me a call and I'd like to really talk to you about that.
Okay. Okay. How can I reach you, Marion? Are you?
I'll put the number in the chat. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Don, do you have?
David Wheeler has been raising his hand. So
yes, while
let
Don
him
was
talk.
talking, I wanted to ask Don if he was there during the partition, because that's when you were.
No.
No, way after.
Okay. Then David Wheeler, you're next.
Thanks.
Thank you. I just, Connie and I are getting ready to leave. And I just wanted, on behalf of the board of directors of Friends of Woodstock School, I wanted to thank everyone, each of you, for taking the time, particularly over a weekend, and joining us for our virtual reunion. And please keep in mind October 2023 there'll be more information rolling out on our website about our first in-person reunion in several years. But again, on behalf of the board of directors, and specifically Connie and I, we really want to thank each of the members of the reunion committee. This was amazing. It wouldn't have been done without your help. And a special thank you to Dr. Cook, Adi, Katie, Joe, and Jamie. So just thank you so very, very much. We'll look forward to seeing everybody in Phoenix, Tempe, Arizona, October 2023. So we'll wish you a good evening, and we'll say good night from the, as Kim Shafi would say, the left coast.
And thank you, David and Connie.
Thanks, David.
Good to see you again, David.
And you as well.
And I wanted to make a comment to what Don said about the difference between the Mish kids and the government kids. I happen to be a government kid. My dad was teaching agriculture in Pakistan, but I was raised Southern Baptist. So I think I fit in at age 10 with the rest of the Mish kids just fine.
Right.
Then come freshman year, all these embassy kids came into our class our freshman year in high school. So I was the bridge, but because I had commissary privileges and I had all this food and all these clothes like the government kids. So I was the bridge between the Mish kids and the government kids. And I think that's one reason why our class has stayed so close, right, Ted?
Yes, Sue, absolutely. Did you hear Don mention? Did you hear Don mention cleavage?
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 Yes.
Cleavage?
No.
No.
Well, he did, and the only one in our class who had cleavage was Sue.
I like your sense of humor.
Anyway, not all government kids were negative.
No, and you know what? It's just kids being like, we had somebody in our class who now as an adult, she says, oh, I just gloated over you guys like having all my American candy and you didn't have it. You know, there's two sides to that story. So, I mean, yes, again, we're all friends now and whatever, but when we were kids, that's just kids. I don't think that's Woodstock per se. When you have kids that are a certain group and another group, anyway.
Maya, I think you had your hand up next.
Hands up. Maya first.
Maya was next.
And Pat. Maya, you have to unmic.
My comment goes back to what you said, Dawn. I was very happy at Woodstock. I loved Woodstock. I learned a lot about Christianity. And my parents were from two different religious backgrounds, but religion was not an issue that either tried to proselytize. They were totally relaxed. And the social environment in which I grew up, Bombay, a suburb of Bombay, that was very, very tolerant. Woodstock, though, in those days, the Christian endeavor on Sunday evenings and 2 hours of church and scripture every day, people were kind. They were certainly very accepting, and they did not directly target any child who was not a Christian or missionary there to proselytize. But there was certainly, and this is, as I said, the momentum from those days, that they had come to convert in people who were socially inferior, sociologically inferior. And there was no mention of, what was happening, the reality in the 50s, after all, of what was happening in the United States. Very similar things. But I was very happy, don't get me wrong. But I exactly remember what Dawn said. And at night, without telling anybody, I was very afraid that my parents would go to hell. But, I was a very balanced child. So those fears did not traumatize me, but there was that feeling at the back of my head, giving me certain uneasiness that they were going to go to hell and I would be in heaven. And how could I save them? That was the message, but it came through. But as I said, I was happy there. It was a wonderful environment. And I learned a lot. After I left, I studied Indian art and religion for my college degree and learned a lot to be able to compare. And certainly, though our families were refugees from Pakistan, but nevertheless, there was no personal animosity. Your next door neighbor was a Muslim in Bandra, the suburb where I grew. Everybody was pretty integrated and shared each other's festivals and ate with each other. So there are so many differences, like there is in any diverse country. But I was very happy there, but I cannot forget that. And as for, we were only encouraged to play cards which were authors and old maid. No card with the regular deck. That was considered sinful. And I do believe that jazz was also considered sinful. Square dancing was fine, but ballroom dancing was not.
Right.
There was a hangover of that old, what shall I say, morality.
Right.
So times have changed a lot, and Woodstock has too. So now there's a more universal attitude about other people and accepting and respecting other people and whatever they are. So anyway, I loved the experience. Came away positively educated, I think.
Hey, Dawn, in case it makes you happier, I wondered for years why anyone would want to go to Woodstock because of the strict rules, and the thing is they're Christians and Christians, and the rules at Woodstock were aimed at what I used to say, the strictest group of missions that were associated with it. And then of course there was a certain amount of, like some of the stuff like holding hands in public was culturally not that acceptable in India anyway. But
Right.
Woodstock was isolated enough so it didn't matter. But you arrived at Woodstock at a really bad time, which I will explain to you privately on the phone. I don't want to put it on this, say this publicly.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's go on. Pat has had her hand up for quite a while.
You have to unmute yourself, Pat.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
And then Sharon.
One of the things at my age, and having spent most of my school years in Woodstock as a Mish kid, that I find myself wishing we could get over is some of this, how can I term it, sensitivity that the non-Mish kids seem to have towards the Mish kids. We were third culture kids. We still are third culture kids. Our parents' home was the United States. But my home was the little village of Takatpur in what's now Chhattisgarh. I had yearly vaccinations against all kinds of illnesses. And so when in my last year at Woodstock as a junior, I left in 54, class graduation was 56. My roommate assigned to me was a government 0.4 AID, I don't know. She had a Foot Locker under her bed full of peanut butter, graham crackers, canned peaches. That Foot Locker had a lock on it, and she never shared any of it. And she took a handful of pills every day to keep from getting all of this stuff that I had grown up with and was doing fine. There was a demarcation. What I don't understand on one level is your parents sent you to Woodstock knowing what it was. And if you had problems with the structure and the belief system that undergirded that place and still does, then I wish it could be stated a little more sensitively.
Well, should I respond?
Go ahead, then I will.
Go ahead, then.
I had a wonderful time at Woodstock. Don't misunderstand. I know this is going to sound strange, but I was happy being unhappy. It was a coming of age for me, and I think I'm not the only young male, and remember it was the 1950s, who acquired an identity in opposition to something. And my parents, incidentally, had no idea. They knew that it was a missionary school, absolutely. but they had not gone there to check it out. So that it was an adventure for them as much as it was an adventure for me. And so please, I don't want to suggest that, I didn't get along with the Mish kids. Many of we're going to get a little personal here, but my very first girlfriend was a Mish kid at Woodstock. She was wonderful, magnificent, terrific. To this very day, I think of her. So it was a great experience, but I think, yes, and I can imagine if I had been a Mish kid myself, I could very well have thought, these people who are coming from, for maybe they're really wealthy for one thing, they're kind of an elite, if they're with the State Department and they're coming from across, across the ocean, and do they own the world? And Americans abroad, frankly, some of them deserve a reputation for being arrogant. And I think probably had I been a Mish kid, I might have selective personalities among the non-Mish kids would have annoyed me greatly. So don't misunderstand. I was delighted to go back after vacation for a second year, and I have no regrets whatsoever. On the contrary, I'm grateful. And I'm especially impressed, I must say, with the image of Woodstock that has emerged during this reunion. The audio-visual stuff has been just terrific. And I'm thinking to myself, if I ever had a chance to go and meet the people, in the Center for Imagination, for example, what a wonderful time I would have with them.
And Pat, I'm sorry that you feel that you have a bad feeling towards the government kids. We're all different. Government, you had, okay, government or missionary, but I think it depended on the kids themselves. I shared all my stuff as much as I could. But I was there for 6-7 years. I started in 5th standard, 6th grade. And my dad was scheduled, we were there a long time compared to most government kids. And when my father was supposed to leave my senior year, and he went to his supervisor or whoever, his boss, and said he wanted to extend a year. Well, his boss said, you have to see a psychiatrist first, because why would anyone want to stay on a hardship post another year? All he had to say was, my daughter wants to graduate from the high school where she's been for the last 7 years. And the guy said, oh, you're fine. You can stay. So I think, yeah. So I'm just defending myself.
No need. You were a good one.
And Sharon, you have your hand up?
I did. It sort of relates back to the conversation around, kids from missions. That era for, in the 50s and 60s was really different in the sense that a lot of the kids were there sent by missions. And the way that the missions paid for that was they sent faculty as well, and the principal. You as kids, we were experiencing those differences in one way, but as faculty, and staff, there were all these different fractures between the different, there's a lot of different kinds of, Christian expression and belief systems. And I don't know, I see a bunch of staff on this call. Some of you were both alumni and staff, like the Rollins and Glenn, and then there's Anne and Barfast and Peter Jenks. I'm just curious. When I went back in the late 90s, there was definitely just a lot of different, the faith-based people who were there with a very, and it expressed to the kids that they were working with a very different kind of Christianity than some other people who were from other denominations or belief systems. And I think we all experienced, Christianity by what we saw, about who was talking to us about it, right? So, but I'd love to hear from some of the staff, just kind of about how you guys experienced those the pressures of kind of different kinds of Christianity and trying to, be working in a Christian school from wherever you came from.
And Karen had her hand up.
Karen?
The rest of us can take our hands down. unless you still want to.
Yeah, unmute yourself, Miss Krenz.
Unmute.
Karen. Miss Krenz, sorry.
Call me Karen, that's okay. I'll still respond to Miss Krenz.
Okay.
I respond to all kinds of things. So. But I just want to say, listening to these graduates and people who were there in the 50s and 60s, you know, in some ways, you know, that's when I was growing up here. In fact, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. And, you know, there are a lot of similarities, say, between the blacks and the whites. And a lot of the feelings you had toward Woodstock, I had toward my parents. So in many ways, you know, Woodstock was the de facto parent. And I think, you know, listening to you guys made me realize that, I think really for the first time, even though as a staff member, I knew that, but I was so many different things, I felt. And I was just a person who was going there to teach and to love on the students and have a good time and hike. Those were my objectives. And the other thing is, over time, you know, I mean, our culture's moved on, Woodstock has moved on. And one of the things, real benefits I see in Woodstock is that it has moved on with the times. And I think, you know, as alumni, it's hard sometimes to put those old feelings behind us, but we need to keep trying, because I think Woodstock is just so much more. And I really realize that thinking about just some of what I experienced earlier this morning before I went to church, and sitting there and I'm like, wow, Woodstock is just, it's unbelievable. It's this timeless machine, and it just all connects all of us from across so many different generations. It just always excites me to be around Woodstock people. Thank you.
And have you noticed that the people on this, what is it called? Our lounge?
Lobby.
They're all older students, none of the young folks that have put on.
You know, that came to my mind earlier today.
Yeah.
And I thought most of the people, you know, joining the virtual reunion are us older folks.
Oh, but those young ones put on some wonderful programs, some wonderful sessions, but it's too bad they can't participate here.
Yeah. Oh, the technology is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I wonder, going back to Sharon's question, Linda, were you going to say something, or Anne? Sharon was asking something about this former staff. Linda, do you want to go ahead and say what?
Yeah, I just have two quick comments. One was I went as a prayer partner with Bible and Medical Missionary Fellowship, although I was hired directly by the school in the mid 80s. And I just was grateful when I met another Christian, because frankly, in UP, there were not that many Christians. But I felt like, although of course there was chapel and, you know, mandatory this, mandatory that for students, that this school was very respectful of different religions. And I remember students being excused from Friday class at a certain time so they could go to the mosque, and special accommodation for Ramadan. So I felt like, yes, it is a Christian school, but people spoke more about their personal faith and on why they believed. And it wasn't, you have to, you know, there wasn't some kind of hard sell. It was very respectful. I mean, that was my experience.
And Lynn, did you have a comment or not? Okay. All right. Any other yes. Mary?
Well, there were a lot of things, what shall I say, influences at Woodstock, not the least of which it was an American school when I was there. And I happened to be Canadian, and that was not cool. And they had all these beauty pageants, like May Day and Basketball Queen and the cheerleaders. And I left at the end of grade 11, totally convinced I was hopelessly homely because I never got elected to any of those. And when I came to a Canadian high school, which was the leading high school in Toronto, to my complete surprise, there were no beauty pageants. And I realized, or cheerleaders, it didn't matter. And I realized, wow, Woodstock was so American. And that kind of, we're the best. And I remember this girl telling me in elementary school that the God Save the Queen tune was stolen from the Americans. And, you know.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
I
Mary,
we
you
lost her.
froze.
Uh-oh, Mary, we lost you. Mary Scarson.
She froze.
Okay. Well, we'll
Go
go
on
on.
to Jackie. She's
Yeah,
had her
Jackie.
hand up.
Yeah. Jackie?
You have to unmute, Jackie. No, you have to unmute. We can't hear you. There you go.
Yes, I know. Well, for my personal story, I was born in Burma of missionary parents, but I didn't go to Woodstock until my dad worked for U.S. aid in West Pakistan. And I turned 13 in Karachi in 1953 and went to Woodstock in 1954 and stayed through high school. So I was always empathizing with the missionaries, being a government kid.
Uh-oh.
We lost her too.
What's going on here?
I don't know. Can you hear me? Just to finish my comment.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. This must be an American system that didn't like me saying it's American. But anyway, just to finish, in 1968, when I left, it was not that long after that it became very cool to be Canadian because all these draft dodgers came to Canada. So there was definitely a very American, like, we're the best that you had to contend with when you were at Woodstock. So it wasn't just missionary versus USAID. There were a lot of Christian versus non-Christian. There were a lot of divisive factors. But in spite of it all, I think we learned to love one another and we still love one another. We're still connecting. So
yes.
And
I think that's a good point, Mary. You know, I mean, I think we were all with lots of different people and lots of different values and, you know, things in our life, but we still somehow, I think, came out of it respecting each other, you know, and learning from each other. That I don't think a lot of, I won't need to say anymore, but anyway.
I don't know what Jackie was going to say, but she and her father and my father both worked together with AID in Lahore, West Pakistan. And I know she and her sister Kathy and Charlie, and then there were a couple other kids, I think, and our family were good friends. And I'm not sure what she was going to say other than I think she was like me. She was a conservative upbringing, but she was a government kid and fit in just fine.
Oh, Jackie also, I wanted to jump in on Jackie because she was the first person who knew how to do fast pitch softball. And we had hardly any gloves for the girls to play, but we played intramurals and it was great fun. And I was a hopeless sports person of all kinds, but I became catcher, so I'd have because I was the only one who would be willing to be hit with the ball. I didn't catch it very well, but I loved working with Jackie, and I've been in touch with her since. She's a very, very special person, and it was so excited to see her get back in touch with her a number of years ago.
Maybe she can still get back on yet.
I hope so.
Yeah. Glenn G, you're next.
Yeah, just a couple quick observations. Mary, one of our Americans' favorite mythologies is that the Canadians like us. So don't. But anyways, and the other thing I thought too is, boy, when I was there, I thought Cannon Burgoyne's first name was Cannon until I was in junior. I didn't realize it was Sam. So, the British influence was still pretty strong in the mid 60s as well. And we saw it in the student government. I mean, we had a governor general until I was, as the head of the student body, not a president, and so forth and so on, at least when I was younger. Anyway, one thing to share, though, when I hear people talking about families and the sense of a surrogate family and the lifelong ties that we formed and all that stuff is one of the, I think that's really a part of this that often goes a little bit unnoticed, because it leads to some really, really neat stuff in terms of long feelings of attachment. I once had Jim Brown, I believe it was, who, of course, my parents were Mennonites, and of course they didn't like Frenchie Brown, Jim's dad, because he used to use war stories in his sermon illustration. So there was a lot of tension there. But I once called up Jim for something, and his response is, Jim, Glenn, you own a little piece of my soul. Obviously, I'll do anything I can, and I feel that way about family members sometimes. But one of the shrinks I have talked to in my life, the first one actually, one of the most interesting things she told me after my fourth session with her, she said, your problem, Glenn. And I said, well, of many, but your problem, Glenn, is that you directed your adolescent rebellion against this school. You didn't do it against your parents. Now, I'm not saying everybody did, but that was a pattern I have seen in other people. Said against, because your time with your parents was quite precious. And you didn't waste your time with them. You were happier to sort of clean up your language and do what you needed to do so you could get along with your parents, and you didn't rebel against them. So you rebelled against this school because this was your surrogate family. And she said, the problem is you can't rebel successfully against an institution. It doesn't care, it doesn't care about you. There are people there who care about you deeply, but the institution itself, just doesn't care. So you have this, Glenn, your problem is you have this unresolved adolescent rebellion that never came to fruition and never was really successful. And of course, you're a little bit messed up. And she said, that's why every time you get around Woodstock, people use smoke. And I said, what do you mean? And I quit now, but for years and years and years, one of my favorite things to do was go to a Woodstock reunion and smoke, because not my favorite things, but I realized later it was a way of saying, look, I'm all in on this. I'm all in. I've decided this is an institution I'm connected with, and and I like it. And I have the same highly ambivalent feeling sometimes that I had for my family, because it was my family. They drive me nuts sometimes, more so than anything else. And I care about them too much. And there's all those sort of family dynamics, the positive and the negative. So, but I'm all in, I'm all in. I'm committed, and I'm gonna help do what I can for it. But damn it, I still smoke, and you better like me anyways, And she said, yeah, well, yeah. So when we talk about family, I mean, I think it's really interesting to think about Woodstock as a surrogate family and recognize that there's both an upside and a downside to that. And it's part of why I think we get so passionate about this place sometimes, is that, I've said to many people, and I said to Craig Cook the last time I talked to him, I said, the problem isn't that nobody cares about Woodstock. The problem is that everybody cares far too much, and we care about different things. So it's a wonderfully rambunctious, sort of nutty family that I'm part of, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. So anyway, just some thoughts.
Sharon?
Just Glenn, so when I was there on staff, we had someone who wanted to make the school the guardians of their child in case they die. We're like, it's okay, Woodstock will take care of you. We're like, we're not people. We're not a person. You can't make the school the guardian. But yeah, similarly, it was like, they did a great job, so let them take over raising my kids if in the eventuality that I pass. So this fascinating to think about that relationship and why we're all so bound and in both positive and negative ways to the institution. But thanks for that.
Don, I think your hand was up again.
Conrad, Glenn Conrad, we are we are birds of the same feather. Yes, indeed. I began smoking and drinking heavily at Woodstock. In fact, my most dangerous moment, which could have resulted in expulsion, was when it was really stupid of me. We would go out on the hillside, get drunk, smoke, but of course we had to be back by a certain hour. And it occurred to us that people could smell our breath. They could smell the alcohol, they could smell the smoke. So we solved that problem with toothpaste.
Indeed.
And so we'd always bring toothpaste with us, and just massive amounts of toothpaste in the mouth when we went back to the hospital. We were pretty dumb because it never occurred to us that someone would smell the toothpaste and wonder why these guys were brushing their teeth, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it was really insane, right? But you're absolutely right. The school was a surrogate parent. I think your analysis is completely spot on. But again, I want to emphasize, I had a terrific time. I mean, I won't go into the details basically, I just threw myself on the mercy of the court. Others did different things. One student, I won't mention his name, said, "I resign." And the rest of us, we said, "Wow, we didn't know you could resign from high school." Well, that's a whole new concept, right? But anyway, it was a wonderful time, and I don't regret a moment of it.
And as you talk, almost all those things you can project them and see them happening in a family context.
Yes.
I resigned from this family. I'm out of here. I hate you guys. Or whatever. But I remember, where's Mary? I remember in Toronto, I think it was during that reunion, when somebody, whoever, it was a wonderful question. It was probably you who was doing the introductions and asked, having whoever came from farthest away stand, whoever, having different groups stand. And then said, all of you who have been expelled from Woodstock, stand up. And about 20, 30 people stood up. The place erupted in cheers. You remember that? I thought that was I'm not sure what that was about, but it was a very...
And everyone that got expelled thought they were the only one.
Yeah,
probably.
Everyone that had ever been expelled thought they were the only one, but they were the only one of their era.
Right. Yeah.
And how many people who have been expelled but go back to the school reunion that they were expelled from?
Right.
Let me
it's
tell you,
WOSA.
one of Don's and my classmates, so Don never met him until class reunions, actually was expelled when we were seniors in high school because we had gotten a principal in place of Canon Burgoyne who was a little less understanding of teenage boys, and he broke a few too many rules, and his dad was a contractor and had told him, if you can stay at Woodstock 18 months, then you can quit. And he decided to quit. The only thing was that none of us remembered that he had quit. We all were, he was someone we liked and were able to get back in touch with. And he has become he's actually a benefactor of Woodstock School. If you've seen the piece, sculpture, or if you've seen the bust of Gandhi.
Right.
And Woodstock finally, he never got a high school diploma, and Woodstock gave him one in 2004. Finally, he's one of the best educated people I've ever known. He's still working. He's in his 80s and he's still casting bronzes and teaching artists about sculpture.
I want to go back to Jackie Horton. You got cut off in the middle of what you were saying. Do you feel like you want to finish that? If you don't, we don't need to go back there. We have,
No.
a couple minutes left of our time.
Okay. What basically I've learned is that all of us really are made up of who we know and our experiences through life, whether we accepted them at the time or rebelled against them during that time. And in my career with the probation department, I always it was an international environment in Los Angeles County. And there were people from India and Venezuela and Peru and Hawaii, and you know what it's like at Woodstock. And they were all friends. And my second husband was born in Lahore and in British India. And he had a blonde-headed, blue-eyed brother, and we know that Alexander and his troops got down into Multan, and that Alexander had an Afghan wife called Roxana. And so to me, he was always a Caucasian brother in a sense, but not to people where we live here in Idaho. He was definitely taken as Mexican or, somebody who was from the Orient, whatever that is these days. But, it's sobering when we get to be 20 and 21 and realize that we haven't rebelled against mom and dad. I did too. And so I had to, in whatever way I needed to grow up. And once we do get beyond that, we can be friends because Woodstock helped us be friends with the world. And I'll forever be grateful for my years there because I was introduced to my own talents while I was there. And it was a growing experience for me in many ways. So thanks.
Wow, that was a really nice way to bring the whole thing to an end. Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm glad you got back on. I think that is so true. All of us have some similar experiences, and to be able to just say what we think and how we feel, and be grateful to the institution that we attended. And I think, Jackie, your comment was you helped me, being at Woodstock helped me get along with the world. And I think it helps us live in the world. And there's lots of, no matter where we would have been when we grew up, we would still have issues with something. And I think the one positive thing about Woodstock is that it did allow us to have friends all over the world and to experience the world and the diversity in religion and values and background, and stuff like that. So we have 2 minutes, and I have a couple of announcements before we end. If there's anything anybody feels like they want to get in yet, as long as it's not too long, I suppose, but feel free. We have a couple minutes, and I'll quickly make my announcements. And we really have 2 minutes.
Well, go ahead and make the announcements. That might inspire somebody to say.
Okay, just again, a big thank you to all of you. Obviously, this wouldn't work if you guys weren't there to participate. So we thank you so much for taking all this time out of your schedule. Remember that we're keeping our fingers crossed that the world will cooperate and we can meet in person in Phoenix or Tempe in the fall of October 2023. So put that on your calendar. all of these sessions have been videotaped, and we need to do some editing. So it should take, we'll try to get them as quickly as we can, but within 2 weeks, they should all be uploaded to this website, FWS, WOSA.org. So, or the FWS page. So it'll be up on there, and you can just go up there and review it. Let's see. Oh, one other thing, you will soon be having an evaluation for the reunion being sent to you. So please give us your ideas and your thoughts, your feedback. You know, that's the way we learned, and that's the way we can do better. We switched things up from the last virtual reunion simply because of things that you guys said. So it's really important when you're the ones who are working, trying to make it work, that's one thing, but when you guys are the ones experiencing it, that's really important for you to tell us. And if you have a special idea or topic, please be thinking about that. Not sure who to send it to at this point, but you can write it in that evaluation form and get it back to us. So we greatly appreciate that. And I guess that's it. Oh,
Teddy Katumber has his hand up. Don't believe this. He calls himself Sheridan, but that's a Dodge. His name is
Well,
Ted.
I was wondering about that. Okay, Ted.
I don't know how to get the picture on. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Go for it.
Real quickly, Maya had mentioned something about the difference between Hindus and Christians. Well, I just want to say that while we studied the Bible at Woodstock all the time, it was that drive in me that I found out that there are many Hindus who have believed that you can be a Christian and still be a Hindu. There's, and these are the broad-minded individuals. I went on and got a major in world religions, and I discovered more similarities than disparities, shall we say. And the way I like to explain it is that if you go up a mountain, there are many ways up the mountain. The paths between them, the distances between the paths at the bottom are quite great. But as you get closer and closer to the top, you find that the paths eventually all merge into one. And as far as I've been able to see through my life, that's the search for God. You choose your own path.
Thank you for that, Ted. Appreciate it. Okay, so unless Sharon Sato has anything else we need to do, I think we can close the meeting.
I think we should just thank Kim for leading this committee and for and just it's both a wonderful thing to make these happen and to see all you and also different than a in-person reunion. So I hope to see you, Kim, in person at the next reunion, because we've just been online with each other. So
I know, right?
It's great. But thank you again to everyone for showing up, and I know I'm leaving this reunion with a lot of things to think about, just both personally, but then also around the school and friends and stuff. So I appreciate all the stimulation that you all have provided. So
just want to say, Kim, you were just a name to me, but and you were introduced at the beginning as being a new board member, but man, oh man, I just requested your Facebook friendship. I would like to know you better.
All right. Even if I'm American, huh?
We're all global citizens. We're all global citizens now.
That would be great, Mary. I'd love it.
Harry, the May Queen and our senior year was Kay Knox, who was a Canadian, and she was the most gorgeous person, and she lives in Woodstock, New Brunswick.
Actually, Kay passed away.
Kay did? I'm not too surprised. I did not yet know that. I hadn't heard that.
her younger sister Winnie lives not like an hour and a half away.
Thanks for letting us know, because I'll let the class know, and I don't have anything from Winnie, so.
I think it was during the pandemic, so.
Well, it's quite recent because I got Christmas card with her on it.
Yeah, no,
but she has not been, so.
Was she listed in the memorials?
No.
No, she isn't in the memorials.
We should.
But the crazy thing is, I saw Winnie as somebody who had registered for this reunion, but I haven't seen her in any of the.
I wonder if this death was very recent.
Oh, no, not that recently.
Not that recently.
Yeah.
I
I would
don't
say
know.
within the last year, but it's hard. It's
I
hard.
would say since
Pandemic and
Christmas.
time kind of blur. So.
Oh, I'm sad to hear that, but she is Kay was just fabulous individual.
Okay, well, it's one of those things where we don't quite want to hang up, right?
That's one of the things of boarding school. You never want to say goodbye, right?
We never do. So we'll see everybody in 2023 in person, hopefully. If not, we'll have some virtual stuff too, I hope.
You better have some virtual stuff, because I ain't gonna make it down there to Phoenix,
hope
and I will
to.
miss this terribly.
Yes, we hope to have some virtual stuff. I think we've learned now how to do it, so.
Great.
And Dawn,
Thanks
take
very
yourself
much.
back to
Great.
India.
All right.
It's
Thank
very
you.
much worth it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay.
Wish you
Don
all
has
the
been
best.
just about everywhere else.
Well, not really. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and thank you for your tolerance and patience and just being who you are.